Andy's been a coordinator, joining us via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. He's in like some place called Cape Cod. Don't even ask me how the technology works. I don't even know how it works. Okay, am I simplifying it? First of all, if I'm Greg Williams, I'm not making myself available until this thing gets talked about. Second of all, am I simplifying what it's like to stand in front of the media and as a coordinator and answer questions on a clearly flammable situation?
Well, I felt like I was watching one of my old press conferences, watching you there, and it doesn't always play well when you answer questions like that. And New England gets criticized all the time because they try to protect proprietary information. They try to make sure that they're not creating distractions, but it's not entertaining. And there's a lot of people that get frustrated with the fact that the answers don't just flow out of there, and it can be a pretty big negative thing, and you just need to deal with the negative press that goes with that. Now, that being said, I don't think these comments were that bad, Colin, at all. And one of the nice things about being a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, position coach is you don't have to be the bad guy. You don't have to play that role. What you do have to do is whether Jamal gets a new contract or doesn't get a new contract, you've got to get him to play at his highest possible level. And that's why these guys are going to try to promote the relationship as much as possible. And as a head coach, you're fine with that. You're fine with being the bad guy, or the GM is fine with playing that role. And the position coaches and the coordinators, they have a different luxury than you have. And they need that relationship to be as strong as possible to maximize the player's performance.
All right. So maybe I'm being too critical of Greg Williams there. Maybe I should have just kept quiet.
A great job on your press conference. You're really nicely done. Your hair was disheveled, too. You played the part.
Thanks, Coach. So it's not just the Tom Brady topic. I want to talk about free agency. So Tom goes to Tampa. You have lost players to free agency, and you have gained them as a head coach and a coordinator. What's the most difficult thing about being a free agency and going into a new culture?
Well, you hope to get all the characteristics that player demonstrated in his previous team, but it doesn't always happen right away. I remember when we brought Steve Atwater to the Jets when I was there with Bill Parcells, and I was working with the secondary, and Steve Atwater he's an incredible guy, an incredible presence. And it's not that he wasn't those things in New York. He just wasn't the dominant personality that he had been previously, because these guys are and to some degree, Alan Faneca at the start, the same thing. These guys are guys, and they want to fit in. They want to show that they can be part of the organization, that they can be part of the locker room that they're involved in. Now, ultimately, their great traits come out. It just may take a little bit longer than you as a coach and you as an organization wants it to happen, because they're trying to fit in as well.
You know, yesterday on our show, Brandon Marshall, very talented wide receiver, came out and he said, I think Green Bay has sort of wasted Aaron Rodgers' career. And, it was interesting. And I thought to myself, well, he's had 5 offensive linemen make a Pro Bowl, some multiple times. 6 receivers become Pro Bowlers. So you can't argue. And he's had 2 offensive head coaches. So those are all above league averages for quarterbacks in the last 10 years. His offensive line's been better than average. He's always got a star receiver, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams. His slot guy, Randall Cobb, made a Pro Bowl. Greg Jennings, Donald Driver. It's interesting about, hell, Dan Fouts had a great coach. So did Dan Marino. They never won Super Bowls. What do you make about the argument many have made that Green Bay has wasted Aaron Rodgers' talent?
Well, then you could make that argument about a lot of situations. Has Drew Brees been wasted in New Orleans? Was Peyton Manning wasted in Indianapolis? And if you're looking at Green Bay, you could say that they epically wasted quarterbacks because they had Brett Favre before they had Aaron Rodgers, and he only won 1 Super Bowl. This is a really interesting debate because Belichick and Brady set the bar. So you have a great quarterback, and if you truly have a great coach, then 6 Super Bowls is now the bar. And all these other situations where it's 1 Super Bowl or no Super Bowls, and you've got Hall of Fame talent, has that organization wasted the talent? You have something that most teams don't get close to. And it is a very, very interesting debate.
Yeah. We were saying that this morning. Dan Marino had a Hall of Fame coach, no Super Bowls. Dan Fouts had a Hall of Fame coach and incredible weapons, and he didn't have a Super Bowl. And I consider those guys two of the top 12 quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. So it is interesting. Now, as a former coach that, you can't be a Puritan with NFL. Not everybody may share every value you have. Talent wins in this league. Antonio Brown can be disruptive, and there's things he's done as a human I don't like. But good God, for 6 years, he was Randy Moss. Baltimore, Seattle are interested. Coach, if you ran the Seahawks or Ravens, would you roll the dice on him?
Antonio Brown, 18 months ago, led the NFL in touchdowns, 15 touchdowns. The last time he played, he was explosive, and playing or coaching against him for years and seeing the things that he's able to do, he's an incredible talent. And there's 3 teams that have significant dead money on their cap because he's an incredible talent. Now, whether or not you can get him to Sunday is a big question mark. And whether or not he's going to be able to play and the commissioner is going to let him play, that's a big question mark. But all that being said, if you get him to the field, you've got something special, and there's very few players like him. So I would imagine Seattle would take that chance. And look, Pete could make it work. Pete has made some players work that other people thought, couldn't.
Yeah. Finally, so we were talking about arm talent, and I said when I got in radio 25 years ago, people thought you had to have a great voice. I clearly disproved that. So it's more about content now and what you say. And I've heard this talent. I think Patrick Mahomes is the best arm talent, sideways, arm angles, all that stuff. Carson Wentz is great. But I think if you're asking me who throws the most catchable ball, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, Drew Brees, Brady, Kyler Murray are guys, the ball is just pillowy soft, perfect. I think Jared Goff throws one of the best deep balls I've ever seen for a young quarterback. So let me ask you, as a coach, is it arm strength? Is it touch? How do you fall on that stuff?
Well, I'm a little bit more in line with you, Colin. I look at, is it a catchable ball or not a catchable ball? And I've had plenty of guys with tremendous arm strength. And what happens is it's like that old saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And they can't put any touch on the ball. They can't throw the short swing route to the back. They can't throw the shallow cross. It's either behind the guy or in front of the guy or bounces off his face mask. And arm talent is another aspect of it where you want him to be able to make all the throws. But the question is, can he throw a ball that is catchable? And does he make the receivers work for the balls that they have to catch? There's guys that can get it out in front of receivers and let them catch and run, where there's a bunch of quarterbacks where it's so awkwardly placed that even when they catch it, they just fall down. So to me, it's more what you're saying. Is it a catchable ball as opposed to arm talent or arm strength?
Yeah. So you're out there in Cape Cod. That is, boy, I'll tell you, that's a ritzy part of the country. Now,
it's nowhere near the part of the country you live in, Colin.
I live in a small, secluded grotto in a small little town in Los Angeles. Cape Cod is like the Kennedys and stuff.
I couldn't afford a shack in that town. A bird bath, anything.
Okay. Get out here. I'll buy you a steak. Good seeing you.
All right. Good seeing you, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.